You're listening to the TOEFL podcast, number 24. This is the Test of English as a Foreign Language podcast, the TOEFL podcast, for those preparing for the TOEFL, the IELTS, and the TOEIC exam, and any other English exam. My name is Dr. Jeff McQuillan. I'm your host, coming to you from the Center for Educational Development in beautiful Los Angeles, California. On this podcast, we're going to listen to a dialogue about going to a bookstore at the university. First, we'll hear it read at a slow rate of speech, followed by explanations, then at a fast rate of speech, and then finally, some comprehension questions. Now let's get started.
I went to the bookstore to buy the textbooks I needed for this semester. I went in and saw that the books were organized alphabetically by department. I found the chemistry department under the C's, but I couldn't find the books for the class I was taking. I asked one of the clerks, "Excuse me, I'm having trouble finding the books for Chemistry 205. Could you help me?"
Sure, that's Chemistry 205, right? Okay, that would be over here. What course section?
Let me see. That's Section 4 with Professor Jackson.
For that section, there's a textbook and a course reader. There's also a set of course notes.
Oh, okay. If I get them and they're the wrong ones, what's the return policy?
You can return textbooks within 2 weeks. You can return course readers, course notes, and lab notes too, as long as they're unopened. Just make sure you have the receipt.
Wow, this textbook is $95. Are there any used copies? And are all of these required?
Sorry, but it doesn't look like there are any used ones, and yes, they're all required, not optional.
Okay, thanks. I also need to get a backpack, some notebooks, pens, and index cards.
Those will be on the second floor. Anything else you need?
No, that's it. Thanks a lot.
Listen to a dialogue between a student and someone at the university bookstore. The dialogue began with the person, the student, saying that she needed to buy some textbooks for this semester, and a semester, S-E-M-E-S-T-E-R, is half of a year. Most universities in the United States have one of two systems. They have either a semester system, which means they have two 15-week class sessions. The other possibility is to have the quarter system, and a quarter system is when you have 10 sessions. So you have 3 10-week sessions or 2 15-week sessions. This is in addition to any classes you have in the summertime. Well, she's looking for textbooks at the bookstore, and she went in and she found that the books were ordered alphabetically by department. Well, to be ordered or to be organized alphabetically means, of course, that they go in A, B, C, D, E, F, G in the order of the alphabet. The expression we use is ordered by department, alphabetically by department, meaning it's the name of the department that determines where the books are going to be placed. So the chemistry department is before the foreign language department, which is before the math department. And all the books for the math classes are in one area, and so forth. Well, she was looking for the chemistry department, and she looked under the C's, meaning she looked under the letter C. When we're talking about organizing things alphabetically, we almost always use the definite article the in front of the letter. So the C's, the B's, the F's. If you are going to use singular C, just say C and not C's, then you do not use the definite article. You would just say under C instead of under the C's. Either way is correct. But you can't say under the C or under C's. You have to use the when you say C's and no article when you use just the singular C. The student goes and talks to a clerk. And a clerk, C-L-E-R-K, is an employee, a person who works for a store, and their job is to help customers find things and help customers pay for things. That's a clerk. Well, the student says, "Excuse me, I'm having trouble finding the books for Chemistry 205. Excuse me, of course, is a polite way of getting someone's attention. The student then asks, "Could you help me?" And the could you help me, is a polite way, again, of asking for assistance. The clerk says, "Okay, that would be over here." Notice that in the dialogue, the clerk uses the verb would be instead of is. It really here means the same thing. That is over here. There's some sense in this expression that it should be in this place. I expect it to be in this place. The clerk asks the student, "What course section?" Meaning, what course section is your class? The course section, S-E-C-T-I-O-N, is used when you have a big class, a class with many different teachers. So, for example, Psychology 101, Introduction to Psychology. Well, there might be, in a big university, 10 or 15 individual classes, each with a different teacher. Because there are so many students, they can't all fit in one room. And we call those individual classes, we call them sections or sections of a class. So they're all taking Psychology 101, but they have a different teacher. And usually they're given a different number, Section 1, Section 2, and so forth. So the clerk here is asking the student what section she is in, because different teachers, even though they are teaching the same class, might have different books. The student says that it's Section 4, and the clerk tells her that there is a textbook she has to buy and a course reader. Now, a textbook, is a book, a printed book that has information about a certain topic. A reader, R-E-A-D-E-R, as a noun here, means a collection of individual articles that the professor went and copied and put together, and they put all these together in one little package. It'll often look like a little book, but if you open it, there are in fact different articles. And this is the course reader. Some universities actually talk about the course packet, Packet. It just means the collection of things that you are going to be reading that are not in the textbook. So these are individual articles, newspaper articles, and so forth. This class, according to the clerk, also has a set of course notes. And course notes, Notes, are usually handouts from the professor. And a handout, Handout, is something that the professor gives you, a piece of paper that he or she has made, probably typed up a list of all the topics. And so these notes help you in the class. You can use them to follow what the professor is saying, and you can write on the notes yourself additional information. The student says, okay, if I buy them, if I get them, and they're the wrong ones, meaning they're the incorrect ones, the ones that are for a different class, not this class, what is your return policy? And to return means, of course, to bring something back to a store, and you want to get your money back. So she is asking what the return policy or what the rules are at the bookstore for bringing things back after you buy them. The clerk tells her that you can return textbooks within 2 weeks. This is an example. Some universities, you have to turn them back in the first week. Some you have to return them in the first month. Usually you cannot write in the textbook. If you take a pencil and write in your textbook and try to return it, they will not accept it as a new book. They won't give you all your money back. The course readers, course notes, and lab notes can also be returned as long as they're unopened. Well, we've talked about what the course reader, the course notes. Lab notes would be for a science class, for a laboratory class. They're similar to course notes. All of these are usually sold in a plastic wrap, W-R-A-P, a wrap. And that is a piece of plastic that goes around it, and it is sealed, S-E-A-L-E-D, meaning it's closed so that you can't open it. Well, if you buy a course reader or course notes, usually you cannot return them unless you don't open them. So if you open them, you can't return them. If you don't open them, you can. And here, that's what the clerk is saying. You can return them as long as, under the condition, that is, that they are not opened. They are unopened. The student looks at the price of the textbook and says, wow, this textbook is $95. And that is not unusual in American universities. The textbooks are very expensive. The student asks if there are any used copies. Many bookstores, university bookstores, or bookstores that are near the university sell used copies, old copies of the textbook. And now, of course, you can buy many of these online. And there are websites such as Amazon.com and half.com, where you can buy used books. She asks if there are any used copies at the bookstore, and are all of the books required. The clerk says that they do not have any used copies, and that yes, all of these books are required, meaning you must buy them. The professor says you have to buy all of them. None of them are optional. And when we say something is optional, that's the opposite of required. Optional, optional. If you say something is optional, you don't have to do it. If you say something is required, you do have to do it. Well, the student is also looking for a backpack. A backpack, B-A-C-K-P-A-C-K, all one word, is a bag that you can put on your shoulder to carry your books. Very common in American universities. She also needs to buy some index cards. Index, I-N-D-E-X, cards, 2 words. Those are small, usually 3 inches by 5 inches, white pieces of paper that many students use to write notes on so that they can study or memorize information. And they're very popular among students. The clerk, of course, then asks the student if she needs anything else, and she says, no, that's it. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot means thank you very much. Now let's listen to the dialogue, this time at a native rate of speech.
I went to the bookstore to buy the textbooks I needed for the semester. I went in and saw that the books were organized alphabetically by department. I found the chemistry department under the C's, but I couldn't find the books for the class I was taking. I asked one of the clerks. Excuse me, I'm having trouble finding the books for Chemistry 205. Could you help me?
Sure, that's Chemistry 205, right? Okay, that would be over here. What course section?
Let me see. That's Section 4 with Professor Jackson.
For that section, there's a textbook and a course reader. There's also a set of course notes.
Oh, okay. If I get them and they're the wrong ones, what's the return policy?
You can return textbooks within 2 weeks. You can return course readers, course notes, and lab notes too, as long as they're unopened. Just make sure you have the receipt.
Wow, this textbook is $95. Are there any used copies, and are all of these required?
Sorry, but it doesn't look like there are any used ones, and yes, they're all required, not optional.
Okay, thanks. I also need to get a backpack, some notebooks, pens, and index cards.
Those will be on the second floor. Anything else you need?
No, that's it. Thanks a lot.
Now let's ask a comprehension question. Which of the following is part of the return policy of the bookstore? A. Textbooks within 2 weeks, no returns on course readers. B. Textbooks within 1 week, returns accepted on unopened course readers. C. No return on course notes unless opened. Or D. Textbooks within 2 weeks, returns accepted on unopened course readers. The correct answer is D. Textbooks within 2 weeks, returns accepted on unopened course readers. The first answer, textbooks within 2 weeks, is partly correct, but the second part of the answer, no return on course readers, is incorrect. Textbooks within 1 week for option B is incorrect. Option C is also incorrect, no return on course notes unless opened. The actual policy in the dialogue was that there was no return on course notes unless unopened, unless they were not opened. Be sure to visit our website at www.TOEFLPod.com. That's TOEFLPod.com. From Los Angeles, California, I'm Jeff McQuillan. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time on the TOEFL Podcast. The TOEFL Podcast is written and produced by Dr. Lucy Say. Your host is Dr. Jeff McQuillan. This podcast is copyright 2006 by the Center for Educational Development. TOEFL is a registered trademark of the Educational Testing Service, which does not endorse and was not involved in the production of this podcast.